Hey guys, it's Corey again. Today we're going to take a look at Parag Garg, another segment of his talk that he did, kind of breaking this up into chunks so that we can kind of discuss each section one at a time. The kind of upshot of this next section is just how we're programming things. And I come from a long history of writing code and developing microprocessor boards, control systems, algorithms, various types of robotics, solid-state drives, those kinds of things. Anyway, writing code's hard. It is hard. It takes a long time, and it's hard. You have to know a lot about the system and the underlying hardware, the way that it works. So that's one of the things that we're going to take a look at here. How are we programming these things in AI now? And it's very interesting. So let's take a look and see what he has to say.
Other thing that has happened with generative AI has initially human beings had to adopt, to learn, to interact with computers. Now with generative AI, it has turned the tables. Now computers adopt to human beings. So going back to the initial days of computing, we used to have punch cards, which were very difficult to use, a very physical manual process.
So believe it or not, I actually, in one of my early programming classes, we used punch cards just like this and a piece of equipment very similar to that to write the code that I originally did, and each card was one line of code. So we were slaves to the hardware, but that was high tech, by the way, and we've just continued to build on that. And that's where the rest of the stuff comes from, is us building things off of that technology onto the next technology and the next technology.
Then came machine language and assembly language, which abstracted some complexity, made computing more available and accessible, but it was still very difficult. Only a few people in the world could use computers. Then we had higher level programming languages like C, C++, Java, Python. It democratized computing a little bit. We have 30 to 40 million software developers, which led to the digital revolution in the last couple of decades.
So I actually did a lot of machine language and assembly language. I used to know all of the opcodes that were necessary to make some of the Motorola microprocessors work, several of the Intel microprocessors. Then I also did assembly language, and then eventually I started organizing my assembly language into pieces that are very similar to C, and then I switched over to C. So I wrote C for a big chunk of my career. And now we're moving on to the next level, next layer.
Now English is becoming the new programming language. So it'll democratize computing from millions of people to billions of people, and it opens up the floodgates of innovation. And we have already seen like bunch of very interesting applications which are being created by innovators and creators all over the world today. So what it means for the future.
So we'll get into what that turns out, where we're going with this in the future. But one of the key things here is, let me back up just a little bit there. Take a look at this picture. The newest programming language is English. So we have now conversational voice AI, and I've got a license myself with Air.ai, and this is what we're programming it in. We are programming it in the natural language of English. We're not doing any programming in anything else. Now, some people will say, oh, well, these webhooks, these API calls and so forth, those are not English. Yeah, they're not. They're super high level, though. There's a lot of functionality built into them, and we're really passing data structures. We fill out the data over here, and we pass it across over there. And we fill it out over here, and we pass it across there. So we're really coming up with a mechanism to just pass the data back and forth, but not really the programming. We're not really writing code per se for those things. Now, there are cases where you do have to write some code for some of the endpoints, and you're going to have to run that on a server. But again, that's even a really high level language as well. So that's kind of the upshot of what I wanted to talk about today. What we are making, for sure, we are making things a lot easier for the everyday person to implement this technology. It's super easy to think about. You just have to be really detailed, but it's super easy to think about how to actually write speak the code versus what we used to have to do, where you had to know exactly how the structure was laid out, exactly precisely where, how many bytes were here, how many bytes were there, what this pointer was, what that pointer was, what that dereference was, etc. So these things are very, very cool, high level, and brings it to the point where the everyday person can now access and interact with the computer in a way that they've never been able to before. So we're also able to put a lot of intuition behind it. The agents in Air, the Air agents that are handling the calls, both inbound and outbound, are very intuitive, very capable of following a script, yet letting you go off and talk about some other subject and then come back to that script. So anyhow, just changes out there in the world, and this is a very exciting time, and this AI stuff is going to change everything. It's absolutely going to change every imaginable portion of our lives. So, and I've been saying this, if you don't think, what is it? Urgency in implementing AI in your business is not important. If failure is okay. That's one of my favorite quotes, and it's really starting to grow on me some more. So, anyway, if you need help implementing your Air agents and developing your back-end integrations and things like that around the Air agent, I have a link down below where you can get a hold of me, and I'm going to put my calendar down there. Got the calendar up and running, so you can book an AI strategy session with me, and we'll just go from there.